Thanks, Steve. Welcome, family. Nadia, a recovered alcoholic, and just so excited always to be here. This is like the best way to start a week. Thank you for being here and for joining us, Rob. It's good to see you again. Welcome back. And Bill Swan's joining me today again. And we are on the forward to the first edition. Yep, there's a couple of nuggets here. You won't believe it. So grab the highlighters, get your pens, your post-its, your gel pens, glitter pens, you name it. Just bring and come. Let's go. Page, Roman numerals page, XIII. Number 8. Page number 8, forward to the first edition. So what I'll do is I'll just read the first chapter, the first paragraph, and then we're going to flesh it out. Let's see what comes out of this. Forward to the first edition. This is the forward as it appeared in the first printing of the first edition in 1939. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person, and besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. Right, so first word, we. They are talking about the first 100. Now, there's a lot of contention around what number it is. We're a bunch of alcoholics and addicts, so we caught a fish this big, it's a fish this big. I had 10 drinks last night. I had 2 drinks, actually. You know how it goes with us. So it's the first 100, okay? Of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women. And I highlighted this the last time, I think it was the second session, and it's not to be divisive or anything, but we come into these rooms and there's a couple of watered down messages. Men sponsor men, women sponsor women. If that was the case, I wouldn't have the privilege of sitting here today with my brothers and sisters in a recovered state, living the life beyond my wildest dreams, if Bill and Bob said, no, we're only going to sponsor men. Women sponsor men, men sponsor women. And you know what was really lovely? If it doesn't sit too well with you, what was a really lovely suggestion from my sponsor, because I was appalled, I'd been raised on watered down messages for the first 7 years of my recovery in and out of these rooms. And she just said to me, those men that have just been your slaves and been your hostages, that's a beautiful way for you to make amends, is by sponsoring a man, taking him through the steps gently, kindly, lovingly, in a helpful manner, because you haven't been very helpful, right, in your past. So that was really, really beautiful for me. And then there's that word, who have recovered. Oh, that word does cause cackles to rise. And I've been in a couple of face-to-face meetings where it causes arguments. Let's just look at what the book says. This is what we're doing here, right? We're looking at what the book says. A lot of us have got opinions. We've got beautiful experiences. It gives each other strength and hope. But let's see what the book says. So the book says, I think it's about, I don't know, it's more than 20 times. It uses the word recovered in this text. But let's look at how we are when we don't have a spiritual solution. Let's go to page 52. This describes my life perfectly every time I let go of the spiritual solution. Every time I run my life on self-will, which means that there's no God. God is either everything or God is nothing, right? So this is what Nadia's life looks like when she's not working a program. I have trouble with personal relationships. Page 52, the third paragraph. I have trouble with personal relationships. I can't control my emotional nature. I'm bursting out and shouting at everybody. I'm screaming at the guy in the traffic. I'm screaming at my kid because she's not getting dressed quick enough. My mother just sits wrong in her chair and I'm growling at her, you know? That's a big one for me. I can't control my emotional natures. I'm a prey to misery and depression. Oh, what a beautiful way it is written. Literally, misery and depression are like vultures just sitting there, just waiting to pick on my thoughts and my bones and my sleepless nights. I'm full of fear, full of fear. I'm driven by fear. I'm unhappy and I can't seem to be of real help to other people. You know what's my solution to that feeling? The jumping off point. Let's just end it. Can't help anybody. Can't be a good mom. I'm a shitty friend. I'm a crap daughter. Well, then I might as well just end it. And then my sponsor, and those that have sponsored him and her before, take me over to the 10-step promises. And this describes a recovered state. This is so beautiful. Whatever, page 84. This is us. This is Nadia when she's working a beautiful program, i.e., being of maximum usefulness to others, helping God's kids, giving what I've been given so freely, giving it away, giving it away, giving it away. This is what happens to me. I cease fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. I love what Bill does there. Like anything, not people, not alcohol. Like alcohol's said, like we don't even, we cease fighting alcohol. That's the last thought in this train of thought. The first thing is anything, because I will fight with a key that doesn't fit in the ignition properly. I will fight with the cupboard that doesn't fit seamlessly. Sanity will have returned. I'll seldom be interested in liquor. If I'm tempted, I recoil from it as if from a hot flame. Man, I was drawn to that stuff like a moth to a hot flame. I react sanely and normally. I see that my new attitude towards liquors just comes without any thought or effort. No New Year's resolutions, no gym memberships, you name it. It just comes. I'm not fighting it. I don't have to avoid temptation. I feel as though this is pointed out to me today, I love this, as though I had been placed in a position of neutrality. Not I put myself there, I had been placed in this position of neutrality. So we're neither cocky nor are we afraid. There you are. So that's untreated versus recovered. Those are the promises and the state of mind of a recovered alcoholic. And that's one of the promises. That's the other beautiful thing. Let's not argue about it. It's a promise. Right in the early stages of the book. I'm almost done, and then I'm going to go over to Bill and see what he's got to say here. And then also I'd like to I circled this. Main purpose of this book, and then these pages, and this publication. Now, this publication is in the second paragraph, about 4 lines down. But those 3 statements, this book, these pages, this publication, that's a clear-cut directions. As it says on page 29, second paragraph. Page 29, second paragraph, refers to this book, these pages, this publication. And what is that? Our clear-cut directions on how to recover. These pages, this book, this publication. This is it, guys. This is the magical book. This is what's going to get us at recovered state. And the last little comment I want to make here is just another beautiful promise. And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. I think there's over 400 different fellowships that have been established on the big book, the program of recovery. It's been tweaked and given different language, and the 12 steps, I think there's 412 OA, Gamblers Anonymous, Debtors Anonymous, Sex and Love Addict. I mean, the list goes on and on ad infinitum. But isn't that beautiful? There's another promise. Our way of living. I definitely wasn't living before I came into these rooms and picked up the simple spiritual toolkit laid at my feet. That was not living. That was not living. Bill, you want to jump in?
I'm trying to behave today. I'm an alcoholic. My name's Bill. I do want to say one thing, point out that the first italicized statement in the book is what you read, to show other alcoholics precisely. That means without deviation. The way the folks that wrote the book recovered is the main purpose of this book. And I want to say something came to light because you were talking about the bedevilments. We were going over the third step this morning in another meeting. And for the first time ever, I think I realized when we used to talk about we had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. I thought that meant me having the opinions that the Washingtonians got involved with, which caused their demise. Outside stuff, even though we don't resolve, I thought that was the moral and philosophical convictions they were talking about. And then I recall times in my life where I knew that there were things that were wrong with me that were repelling people. And you described the bedevilments of prey to misery and depression, couldn't control my emotional nature, couldn't keep my big mouth shut even when I knew it would be in my best interest. And more importantly than that, I set out to make changes. At 13 years old, we moved to a new school system. And I knew there was something wrong with me, that irritability inside, that spiritual discontent, that disconnection. And I said, we're moving to a brand new school. No one knows me here. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to make friends. I'm going to join the toboggan club, whatever that was. And I meant it. And within 2 weeks, I believe that at the first auditorium pep rally, when they gather all the students together and the principal comes up to give the welcoming talk and so on and so forth, I wanted to stand up in front of everyone in that school and say, I apologize for being wrong. I knew there was something wrong with me, and philosophically and morally, I wanted to change it. And I couldn't, and that carried on until I finally surrendered to the power. And that's what I had to do. And one of the amazing discoveries I've had, and I don't know, I get involved with these book things, and the more we go over them, the more I think it discloses about myself. I was incapable of turning my will in life, or making the decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God without God's help. And I know it says that in there, and I've been reading it for 4 decades, but I never saw it. It says it a little different. It said we had to be entirely rid of self, and we couldn't do that without his aid. I didn't realize, Nadia, that I was even incapable of making the decision and carrying it out without God's help. It's a crazy, crazy thing. So anyhow, go on with what you're reading. I forgot last week we were recorded. If you guys were here and I said anything that came out wrong, there was no offense intended on anyone who establishes as a fellowship, specificity, or the like. It was just last week I was unfiltered. Hey, last week I couldn't control my emotional nature. Today I'm going to with the click of a button.
Thank you, Bill Swan. So he spoke a little bit earlier about the Washingtonians. Just very quickly, the Washingtonian movement was a temperance society where it was founded by 6 alcoholics. The idea was that by relying on each other, sharing their alcoholic experience, and creating an atmosphere of conviviality, they could keep each other sober. Total abstinence was their goal. This group taught sobriety and preceded AA, but yep, they got involved with a lot of things that wasn't sobriety, and yeah, it fell apart. And that just drives home the traditions, the importance of the traditions.
Can I say one thing real quick before I forget it? Because I did for a second. When you talked about recovered, and that creates controversy, I think the simplest and probably most specific description of that was recovered means the symptoms are not there. There's no symptom of drinking because I'm not drinking. And it eradicates the symptoms of my spiritual maladjustment. We are not cured. That exists within us. The allergy to alcohol always remains, just like an allergy to anything else. It doesn't go away. But recovered means the symptoms have been removed, or I've been relieved from the symptoms. And that's how simple it is, because they say recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. And I say, well, wait a minute, if my body's recovered, why can't I drink again? They're not saying that. I've been relieved of the drunk. I'm not drinking. And now the symptoms, the resentment, the fear, the bedevilments through this process have been removed, so that people seeing me drunk, not drunk, undrunk, don't know that I have alcoholism. How's that?
Yeah. And for those participants that are here, Rob has dropped some amazing attachments in the chat. Do yourself a favor, wander over there, save it, and check it out for later. And for our YouTube listeners, we've got you covered. You're in the book with us. So Bill said we've got we're not cured. That's a big message here. We're not cured, but we do have a daily reprieve. Let's go see. We're recovered, just 24 hours, just for today. It does say that. It says, let's go over and actually see what Bill wrote about the just for today, the daily reprieve. Page 85, second paragraph. In the middle of the second paragraph, what we really have, guys and gals, is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. That's what we got. And our spiritual condition.
And our spiritual condition is not God's responsibility. That is our responsibility. And one of the promises, or at least I take it as a promise, and it's probably a consequence of the first 9 steps, is at the beginning of step 10, it says we have entered the world of the spirit. That's a powerful statement.
Absolutely. And you also touched on the seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Let's just look at that word. Bring out your magnifying glass. Let's go to that word. Let's bring out our Google and look at that word. Seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. That means not real. Google says apparent. No, we come in hopeless, but there's a solution. We have a common peril and a common solution. Man, I could just come with my firework apps. Was not fireworking. Oh, I just love that. I just love that. It just fires me up every single time, because I'm sure, just like me, you came into these rooms and we had to come in here through the ringer, because we will pursue this thing through the gates of insanity or death. Yeah? Just have a moment and just think about where we were. All right. And then just one more thing on that paragraph. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And I forget that I'm a very sick person, contingent upon my spiritual maintenance. And that is the beauty of working with the newcomer. I am reminded on the daily of where this disease takes me. I'm reminded on the daily of where I have come from. Okay, so I'm gonna, oh yeah, sorry, there was one more thing. Bill, I also heard you reiterated show. That is precisely what this book is about, to show other alcoholics how we have recovered, not tell. We don't tell them, we show them by taking them through these steps. This is what's blocking you. This is what you are. You're a child of God, but you're blocked from the power. So let's go look at what's blocking you. Come on, I'm going to show you. We show them by taking them through these pages. Clear-cut instructions. They're right here. We just got to show them how to take them. I had no idea what an inventory was. I had no idea. I tell everyone that I'd done one until I'd done one, until someone had actually sat with me and showed me her inventory and told me to grab a ruler and grab a pen and grab a notebook and showed me what an amends looked like. The second paragraph, we're going to continue reading. It is important that we remain anonymous because we are too few at present to handle the overwhelming number of personal appeals which may result from this publication. Being mostly business or professional folk, we could not well carry on our occupations in such an event. We would like it understood that our alcoholic work is an avocation, hobby, a part-time. Let's go see what the book repeats itself so many times because I don't know if you're anything like me, I need things repeated and repeated and repeated because I don't get it firsthand. And the book does that so beautifully. So on page 19, first paragraph, near the end of that first paragraph, it says here again, all of us spend much of our spare time in the sort of effort which we are going to describe. And it goes on to say here that at the top of the first paragraph, none of us make a sole vocation of this work, nor do we think its effectiveness would be increased if we did. So we don't pay people to do this work. We don't get paid to do this work. It's going to talk about it on the second page. We do this for fun and for free because our lives depend on it. Sponsee, newcomer, when I'm sitting with you, you're saving my life today. That's what's happening here. You must see the look on their face when you say that. They're like, what? I never done nothing good for nobody. What do you mean I'm saving your life?
And then that
Walk with
becomes
me.
the secondary motive, the book tells us later on.
Yeah.
Initially, we give it away to keep it, but that becomes secondary because
That's
to
it.
watch people recover, to see loneliness vanish, to see families reassembled, to see people restored to their right place in society and their family, even with their God. This is an experience you must not miss. And the reality is, once you do it and it's no longer necessary, oh my God, it produces more gratitude than when we got sober, watching
Yeah.
it happen for someone else, and we get to be a part of it.
Yeah. That's some special God dope right there. Bill, let's go to page 181. That's exactly it. We come in here and we do this like our lives depend on it. And then it's just the greatest joy. You can't get a day without it because it's that God dope. It really is. Page 181. This is what he was talking about. We do this work I spend a great deal of time passing on what I learned to others who want and need it badly. Why? One, for a sense of duty, page 181. Two, because it's a pleasure. Three, because in doing so, I am paying my debt to the man who took the time to pass it on to me. And four, because every time I do it, I take out a little more insurance for myself against a possible slip. When writing or speak, sorry, we're back on page XIII, Roman numerals, page 13, forward to the first edition, third paragraph. When writing or speaking publicly about alcoholism, we urge each of our fellowship, look there, it's got a capital F. We're going to talk about that now. So just kind of hover there, to admit his personal name, designating himself instead as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, so there's quite a bit here. That fellowship with a capital F is the fellowship of the Spirit. And they talk about that on There Is a Solution. We're going to swim over to that now. I just want to make a note here as well. We introduce ourselves as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Where else does it tell us that in the book? I told you the book repeats stuff quite a few times. Let's go check it out. Page 49, second paragraph. Here's another way that we have to think about ourselves. We're members of AA, but you know what, guys? We are also intelligent agents, spearheads of God's ever advancing creation. How about that? How about that? That is a sweet deal. I'm a real addict. I love that. It's like, that is like a position of power. Because why? We have a new employer, a new principal. We have the Father. We work for Him now. That's our title. That's our work contract. Intelligent agents, spearheads, God's ever advancing creation.
And maybe for two reasons, they tell us to omit our name when speaking publicly. So we have a public relations policy, which the traditions brought out later. But a couple things. Number one, we don't represent Alcoholics Anonymous as a whole. We're not spokespeople. What we say does not bind Alcoholics Anonymous to anything. So there's anonymity involved there. And there's also we don't do it at the level of the fellowship. It used to be, nowadays, now with everything, it used to be in a phone book. You're not going to find Bill S in the phone book, or probably in a hospital, although I'm easily identified by my histrionic personality. They know exactly where to find me. But in the tradition, it talks about at the level of press, radio, and films, or in this case, a public demonstration. But it's not above or beneath, it's at the level. So I don't go out and grandstand and say I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous like we have some celebrities that break anonymity. Some may be intentionally, some accidentally misinformed. When it's done intentionally, the history tells us that almost invariably everyone who broke anonymity, even though they thought they were doing AA a favor, ultimately paid by drinking again. And it wasn't a punishment. It was a consequence of disobeying spiritual principles. But at the fellowship, you should know who I am and how to get a hold of me. How else could I be an ever advancing agent, creation, all that good stuff, if I can't be of service? So.
And Bill is referring to tradition 11 and tradition 12. And the best place to go read or look at these is the long form on page 563. That's for the members. The short form that most of us read at the meetings, that's for the public. So thanks, Bill. All right. Very earnestly, we ask the press also to observe this request, for otherwise we shall be greatly handicapped. What's really nice to notice.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just quickly say this. What's nice to note, there's this is a bunch of alkies talking, right? It's how did they start the sentence? Very earnestly. Like that's some really beautiful spiritual language. That is beautiful. I love it. Go ahead, Bob.
So it's been noted that the press has protected our anonymity more than our members. It was said that when they reached out to the editors or the owners of certain newspapers or other venues that were public, even if a reporter had a good story on a fallen member of AA or something that could do us harm, someone that superseded them in authority said, no, we're not going to publish that. They honored the sacredness of Alcoholics Anonymous, maybe more so than the erring members did. And that's a big deal. Like Sandy Beach, I was listening to one of his talks, and he said, nothing has ever been said derogatory about Alcoholics Anonymous. You can find fault with all the people everywhere. But because AA has no opinion and doesn't get involved on everything, think about it. No one says anything bad about AA. And I'm not talking about a drunk who doesn't take the steps and goes back drinking. He's at the bar telling people AA doesn't work. We got hands full of those. That's not what they're talking about. No one's ever had a derogatory opinion about this movement. And it's because we haven't gotten involved in anything other than being of service one to the other and to a God of our understanding. I think that's amazing.
that divine hand that's just in this around it, just keeping it safe and protected. All right. We are not an organization in the conventional sense of the word. We do not subscribe to old ideas, old beliefs, or anything that separates us. There are no fees or dues, Tradition 7, whatsoever. Like I said earlier, we do this for fun and for free. We don't get paid for this work. The only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking. That was Tradition 3, but they dropped the word honest. But I want to take you, I want you to bounce with me. Stole that word from Paige. I love her. Thank you. Let's just go over to the long form. Let's go look what the long form says of Tradition 3. This is for us, members. The long form is meant for us. It says here, page 563, Tradition 3. Our membership ought to include all who suffer from alcoholism. Hence, we may refuse none who wish to recover. Nor ought AA membership ever depend upon money or conformity. Any 2 or 3 alcoholics gathered together for sobriety may call themselves an AA group, provided that, as a group, they have no other affiliation. But I want to highlight that first sentence. Our membership ought to include all who suffer from alcoholism. There's another reference here. We're going to go to page 118. All. Let's go from the disease of alcoholism, page 118. And Bill's going to flesh that out for me in a second. Sorry, not 118. I apologize. Sorry, I apologize. Page 160. Page 160, the first paragraph. It became customary to set apart one night a week for a meeting to be attended by anyone or everyone. By anyone or everyone interested in a spiritual way of life. Aside from fellowship and sociability, the prime object was to provide a time and place where new people might bring their problems. So I'll just very quickly give you a little bit of my experience here. I've been through this book 4 times with 4 different sponsors. Okay, that's not really a big book word, but that's a word that we all use for want of a better word. It's what we use, what we're familiar with. But I've been through this work shoulder to shoulder with another member. And one woman who took me through this work is a moderate drinker. She can take it or leave it. She doesn't. She lives a life of abstinence. And she took me through this work because she suffers from the disease of alcoholism. She uses people the way I use substances, the way I use Coke, the way I use alcohol. And then I later learned that I also use people the way I schnauf people. I'd make big hits of human beings. And she used human beings the way that I used alcohol to relieve me from that restlessness, irritable discontent, that spiritual malady. And it was an incredible experience to go through the book with her because she was seeking a spiritual way of life, suffering from the disease of alcoholism, selfishness, self-centered. The disease centers in her mind as well. And she herself also manifests by being driven by fear, driven by self-pity, driven by resentment. It was a very, very powerful experience. Bill, you there? I think I saw someone chatting to him, so he might just be offline for a little bit. That's okay. We'll keep going. So yeah, for anyone
I'm never
looking for
offline. I had to charge my phone because I told you it was getting ready to die. But interestingly, when you read the rest of that paragraph, that was said to be like the original preamble. We are not an organization. There's no fees, no dues, no access to crime. You know, my one buddy who's excited, he's coming up on 40 years in April, and I mean, AA just changed his life and gave him everything. And he said, in our preamble, it says there are no dues or fees. He said, what if there was a due? What if there was a fee? He said, I pay for my cable, I pay for my cell phone. What would I pay for this gift? Free. Grace of God.
Amen. And then just the paragraph ends off with this. I love this, I love this, I love this. And it says it previously as well. We simply wish to be helpful to those who are afflicted. That is AA's mission statement right there. Helpful. Helpful. That's what we are in here for. That's the deal. To be helpful to our brothers and sisters. To carry this message. It says here, we are not allied with any particular faith, sect, or denomination. On page 28, the second paragraph, the book actually hammers on this concept. Let's go see what it says here. The second paragraph. We in turn, I think I've got this wrong. I do. We are not allied with any particular sect, faith, or denomination. Just bear with me. Our book hammers on this. Yeah, it's the whole concept. You know, come in here and find a God of your own understanding. Muslims, Buddhists, Jews, it don't matter. We don't care what language you bring in here. We don't care what God you're referring to. I don't care. I just want you to know that you're powerless and stop trying to run the show. You're not God. So come and find your own God. I do, however, and this is just a Nadia opinion. This is just my opinion. So use it, don't use it, forget it, remember it. I don't know. I've heard people say, let it be a doorknob if you want to. Guys, I don't know. A doorknob can't create something. A doorknob, I don't know. For me, like the doorknob vibe, I try not to. I haven't suggested that to my newcomers, I must be honest. I have suggested that at the meeting, group of drunks, God, let the meeting be your higher power. Maybe you can use mine if you want to. But yeah, we hammer on the fact that we do not dictate to you who your higher power needs to be. We shall be interested to hear from those who are getting results from this book, particularly from those who have commenced work with other alcoholics. Here it is, there's that word again. We should like to be helpful to such cases. And I highlighted this part of the sentence, particularly from those who have commenced work from the other alcoholics. This is a 12-step program. This is a 12-step program. If you're not working the 12 steps, you're in an 11-step program. These guys wanted to hear from those who did this work with other alcoholics, specifically from them. And if you're not sponsoring, the result will be nil. Nil. No half measures here, guys. We're in a 12-step program. The deal is you keep what you have, you give it away. It's the first part of the contract not that there's a contract, but when I sit down with the sponsor, it's the first thing I say, honey, I will go to the ends of the earth for you. The deal, the only payback here is that you do the same thing for the next one. Inquiry by scientific, medical, and religious societies will be welcomed. This sets very much the tone for this book. Mind, body, and spirit. Inquiry by scientific, which is study of the mind. Medical, study of the body. Religious, I would imagine the study of spiritual matters. Body, mind, and spirit. The tone of this book. Why? Because this is a threefold disease. We have the allergy of the body. Doctor's opinion states that for us. Mind, we have the obsession of the mind, and we have that spiritual malady. And let's just go see where these are referenced in the book, just to refresh our memory. And for those that are new, let's go see where this actually describes it in the book. There's many, many places, but I've highlighted these 3 pages. If we go over to the doctor's opinion, Roman numeral 23. Doctor's opinion, Roman numerals 23. The light is getting quite bad here. I needed actually. All right. Sorry, page 28. I apologize. Sorry, Bill, can you just jump in? I really can't see anything right now. The light is terrible here where I'm sitting. Sorry.
You want me to read on? Is that correct?
Yeah, if you could just expand on the allergy, please.
On the allergy? It's the great thirst that comes after I take the first drink. Doesn't satisfy the thirst, it produces a greater thirst. That's the physical aspect, right? The mental is I'm either thinking about drinking, thinking about my next drink, why I'm drinking, or trying to fight the compulsion of the first drink when I'm abstinence. That's what we need help for. The book talks about in the chapter, We Agnostics. If when you honestly want to. That means I'm not lying to my wife because she's long gone. I'm not lying to my probation officer because they've already violated me and I've done my time. I'm not lying to my employer because I probably lost my job and I'm in a position of unemployability. Now I tell myself, this shit's got to stop, and I mean it. If when I honestly want to, I can't quit entirely, that's permanent recovery, permanent sobriety, eternal abstinence. Or if while drinking, I have little control over the amount. And one of my friends says, I'm going to throw one in that's not on the house, or both. I can't stop entirely. Or once I get stopped, I can't wait to get started again. I may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. So they don't tell us we have to have it because alcoholics are rebellious. Can't tell me that. I'll prove you wrong, even if it kills me. And some of us, unfortunately, it does. So we have those 2 components. If the allergy to alcohol was our only problem, then the doctor's opinion, Nancy Reagan, just say no, or entire abstinence is the solution. We wouldn't need any more steps. It would be a first step. I'm powerless over alcohol, therefore I'm not going to put it in my body. In fact, a lot of people in the fellowship believe that the powerlessness over alcohol comes after the first drink. If you're as seriously alcoholic as we were, like the book says, our powerlessness precedes the first drink, or we wouldn't take the first drink, setting the cycle in motion. And I've sat in a lot of meetings where people are sober now and they said they have a choice. If I had a choice, why am I sitting in the meeting? Why wouldn't I just choose not to drink? Or, like it talks about when we get into there is a solution, talks about people's observations on us. They don't have the same reaction to the first drink or the mental obsession leading to the first drink. So they say, he's such a nice guy. Why does he drink so much? She's such a sweet girl. You'd think he'd quit for her sake. The doctor told him. Now it says back of them is a world of ignorance because their reaction is different than ours. There are some folks sitting in the fellowship. My job's not to differentiate them. It's just to know what alcoholic description I meet that say the same thing. When someone picks up a drink after they've been sober for a while and come in contact with us, they make the statement, well, they must have wanted to drink more than they wanted to stay sober. And that's what it looks like to a non-alcoholic or a hard or heavy drinker. The question then becomes, why is it that I drank when I didn't want to drink more than I wanted to stay sober? Because I'm powerless over alcohol, and with out of connection to the divine, a power greater than myself, whatever that terminology is, a God of my understanding. I will drink whether I want to or not, because I can't stand the position or condition of abstinence. Like I think it was said last week, I have a body that cannot tolerate alcohol, and untreated, I have a mind that cannot tolerate abstinence. That's the dilemma. That's the rock in the hard spot for me. Thank you, Nadia. I hope your lighting's better.
Yeah, no, I'm not winning yet, but that was amazing. Thank you. That was awesome. And actually, that is on that note is where we're going to end the forward to the first edition. I'm tapping out because my light situation is appalling, but it's okay. We're at the end of the chapter. Thanks to everybody still here with us and for being patient. This is where you jump in and we get to hear what you've got to say and any questions you might have.